somehow right. That's all time. That's all time.
Derek Jeter is top 3 shortstop. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to this. This is Tanks and Tuddies, presented to you by Tubbs and Franke. Welcome in, everybody. This is episode 136. As you can see, we're without Tubbs again. He is actually on vacation, so we'll cut him some slack there. He did mention last week that he was not going to be here. However, we do have a super fun episode for you. This is quite honestly probably the coolest episode I am ever recording for this podcast. This is the Christian Laettner interview podcast. So we're going to kind of make this beginning here quick. It's just going to be a quick intro like we're doing here, going over locks and long shots from last week. I'll add on to my stuff, and then I'll talk about some March Madness stuff really quick, and then straight into the Christian Laettner interview. For anybody that did not get to join the Twitter live spaces last week, that entire interview will be here for you to listen to. So I will say it was an awesome experience getting to talk with Christian. I never in a million years thought I would have the opportunity to speak with the greatest college basketball player of all time. It was awesome. So give it a listen. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And yeah, hopefully we can get some more big names on here and talk to some other big guys. So anyways, locks and long shots real quick. Jake is 10-15 on his locks. Last week he had SDSU plus 5.5 against North Carolina in the first 4 game. Obviously North Carolina whooped some ass in that game. Not even close. So an L there. And then his ChatGPT pick last week was the Bucks minus 3.5 against the Warriors. That lost as well. So ChatGPT is 1-3 against Jake, but Jake is also 1-3 in his picks since he started going up against ChatGPT head to head. So on the long shot side, Jake is 3-12 all time. ChatGPT 1-3 against Jake on the long shots. Not good. Last week, Jake had SDSU money line. Like I said, North Carolina kicked some ass, lost there. And then ChatGPT took Alabama State minus 6.5 in the first 4 game. That was also a loss. I think they won by 2. So my locks, I am 13-12. Last week, I had UNC minus 4.5 in the first 4 game. That was a dub. We had McNeese plus 7.5 versus Clemson in the first round. That was a dub. They won outright. Great underdog pick there. And then I had Gonzaga minus 5.5 versus Georgia. They won pretty handily. So that was a win there. This week, Sweet 16 is set. I'm going Duke minus 9.5 against Arizona. I just think Duke is quite possibly going to win this tournament single-handedly, very easily. Cooper Flagg looks amazing. Their entire team looks fantastic. And Arizona just hasn't, I don't know, they don't stand out to me yet. So Duke minus 9.5 against Arizona. And then taking the homer pick, Tennessee, Rocky Top, go Vols, versus Kentucky. I think I did that right. Vols? I don't know. Minus 3.5 against Kentucky. Hard to beat a team 3 times. Kentucky's beat us twice this year. Tennessee's looking for a bounce back. Tennessee, I personally think has looked better. Maybe that's a homer in me. I'm not sure, but it's whatever. Long shots, 4-31. Yep, 4-31. I say it every week. A lot of golf picks. You win some, you lose some. Although last week I did have a rough week. 0-3. I had Wisconsin to the Final Four. Obviously, they lost to BYU. I had Big East, the conference, one of the Big East teams to win the national championship. Obviously, we lost Xavier, we lost UConn, and then we lost St. John. So all 3 of the Big East teams are out before we even make it to the Sweet 16. All there. And then we had Texas money line in the first 4 against Xavier. Xavier ended up winning that, so lost there. 0-3. Still open. We have the Florida Future plus 380. Honestly, not looking bad. They've got Maryland in the Sweet 16, and then they have the winner of Texas Tech and Arkansas if they advance there in the Elite 8. So I don't hate it. Honestly, a decent draw here for the rest of their region. It'll be the Final Four in the championship that really tests them. So this week, I am taking 2 underdog money lines for college basketball. We'll take BYU money line plus 190 against Alabama. I unfortunately have to root for the Mormons now. And then I will take Arkansas money line plus 200 against Texas Tech. This is strictly for Coach Cal. I like Coach Cal, like what he's done over there at Arkansas so far this year, and it's a fun little underdog story. Never thought I'd say Coach Cal was an underdog, but fun story to root for. So Arkansas money line plus 200. Speaking of March Madness, a little summary real quick. This is quite possibly the most boring March Madness we've had so far, at least in my lifetime. It's been very chalky. The first round was nothing but chalk. We had, I think, 2 upsets, and it was New Mexico over Marquette as a 10-7, which wasn't really even an upset. McNeese over Clemson as a 5-12 was a decent upset. And then Colorado State being the other 12-5, but Colorado State was actually favored, so I'm not sure you can consider that really an upset. Other than that, everything else was pretty chalk. I guess Arkansas beating Kansas, but Kansas isn't good, so that wasn't that big of an upset. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. It's been boring. On the bright side, it is setting up for some intense final rounds. I mean, you have all chalk, so you have the best of the best. We have the potential for Auburn, MSU, Florida, and Texas Tech or Arkansas, I guess, would be good. Houston and Tennessee, Houston and Kentucky, Duke and Alabama, like those would all be some great games. And then you look at the championships, you still have all the 1 seeds alive. You have 3 of the 4 2 seeds alive. 2 of the 3 seeds alive, so top heavy. And I mentioned that. I said it was going to be very top heavy going into this. And that's exactly what it was. Now, obviously, my brackets, I did not follow that. I picked all of the wrong upsets because there wasn't upsets at all. And it screwed me. And then the one time we do get upsets, it's Wisconsin getting gunned down by the Mormons, by BYU. So I will say, awesome game. Wisconsin fought for it. They at least didn't lay down. But BYU just didn't miss. I don't think it was anything that Wisconsin did outside of not playing defense. But BYU is a very good team. They probably should not have been a 6 seed. And they beat us fair and square. John Tonje, love the guy. Gonna miss him. Horrible last shot. Probably should have passed it. But as the lead guy on the team, you have to take that shot. So I get it. Was sad in the moment that Wisconsin lost, but I think deep down I kind of knew they weren't going to make a run. This is very Wisconsin-esque to blow out the first round game and then lose to somebody that we knew could definitely upset us in the second round. So it is what it is. We'll move on. We'll get some transfer in the offseason. Blackwell and Crowler probably going to come back, and we'll do the same thing over again. It's literally the meme where you put a team's logo in the middle and there's arrows representing the cycle. And it's like getting my hopes up, losing the first round, start to believe again, whatever, that cycle. That's Wisconsin every year. It is get some fifth-year senior transfer, be projected to finish last in the Big Ten or bottom, whatever, in the Big Ten, win some games, get ranked in the tournament as like a top 4 seed, lose in the second round. And then same cycle over again. But for Jake, fortunately, Michigan is still alive. I'm not sure how. I guess they just got hot during the Big Ten tournament. It's carried over. They're probably going to get their ass kicked by Auburn. Go Tigers. I don't care. I hope Michigan gets bounced soon. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm very much looking forward to this weekend's matchups. I think BYU-Bama is going to be awesome. Houston-Purdue should be pretty good. Kentucky-Tennessee, great rivalry, great rematch there. Arkansas-Texas Tech, good. Florida-Maryland, the Crab 5 has been fun. MSU-Ole Miss, I mean, MSU struggled, but they're also really good. And then Michigan-Auburn, probably the worst matchup of the week. Auburn's going to fucking smoke them. So with that, let's take a listen to the Christian Laettner interview.
And Austin, are you good to talk as well?
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Absolutely. And then I just
Perfect.
invited Christian to speak as well. Christian, are you good to talk as well? You might have your mic off, Christian, because I can see that you accepted it. Just make sure you turn your mic on.
Okay, Chef, how's that?
That's perfect. We can all hear you. Great to have you in here, man.
I got to put my camera on too, right?
Yes, you should just have a toggle button right back to the mic, and we can all see you as well.
Okay, there you go. I'm sorry about the lighting, but that's the best we can do.
It's all good, man. Great to have you in here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I'll go ahead and just introduce everybody. So if you don't know, this is Christian Laettner, March Madness GOAT, greatest NCAA player of all time, Duke legend. We are thrilled to have you in here, Christian. It really is a pleasure. I'm going to turn things over to our interviewer. His name's Austin. Austin's from Tanks and Tuddies. Great guy as well. So we're really looking forward to this, and let's go ahead and just get the ball rolling, guys. So, Austin, the floor is yours, and Christian, just thank you again for being in here, man.
My pleasure.
All right, well, while he's getting connected, I'll go ahead and just get the conversation started, Christian. So, again, great to have you in here. We want to start out by talking just a little bit about your background with some Duke questions, if you're cool with that. So, first question we want to ask you guys from the group. This is a group question. We know you grew up in New York and you attended private school there. Can you tell us a little bit about your time in high school and just how you became a top recruit, being recruited by every college out in the nation?
Yes, I was lucky enough to go to the Nichols School in Buffalo, New York. Just a great academic high school, even though I lived 40 minutes away in Angola, New York. And Nichols also had good basketball and a very good coach, my high school coach, Jim Kramer. And I learned a lot, and I played with some good players like the Turgalski brothers. They were my point guards. And went to a lot of camps in the summertime, like the 5-star camp in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and got lots of exposure there. Back then, when I was in high school, if you went to the 5-star camp in Pittsburgh, there would be like 300 college coaches there. So everyone saw you. That was the exposure thing to do. And I started to get recruited, after my freshman, sophomore year in high school, something like that. And one of my first letters was from St. Bonaventure, which is just like maybe 2 hours away from my home in Angola. And that's how the process started. And my basketball coach, Jim Kramer, was also the college guidance counselor. So it was very easy for him to fit into the role of helping me through the recruiting process.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Very cool story. We know that as well. You were one of the top 2 recruits out of high school with Alonzo Mourning. Did you ever face him much in high school?
I used to play against Alonzo a lot in high school, but only in the summertime, and I'm lucky that I did. He helped develop me and turn me into a better player at a young age, because when you played against him, he dominated, especially in high school, a very, very dominant player in high school. So if you could play against him and be on the court against him and have some success against him, even though it might only be a little bit, you were doing something, and it made it easier for you when you went back and played in your high school league. But he was the number one by far, high school player our senior years.
And another question that's coming through about Alonzo Mourning, I'm seeing in the chat right now. Did you guys ever talk about, in particular, going to the same school together? Was that ever a conversation in the background?
No, we never spoke much. We just played against each other and competed against each other in games at the camp, at the 5-star camp. So we were never on the same team together until later, when we were in college. But in high school, no, we only saw each other a few times in the summer and played against each other. That was it.
Very cool. Awesome, awesome. Again, I'm just reading through a couple questions that are coming through now, but a bunch of people want to know as well, were you always as tall as a kid, or did you have a kind of a big spurt in a particular time when you were growing up?
No, I was always the tallest. Every step along the way, the lankiest, the skinniest, and the tallest. And I come from both of my parents are tall and skinny. My dad's 6'5", 155. So I was lucky enough to get up to 6'11", but just super skinny and always the tallest.
That's awesome. One thing we've all noticed as well, and we've all been doing some research about you and watching some great videos and highlights. Just of course, it's March Madness, but we all noticed that you're an extremely fundamental player. Not just a guy that can move around, but you can rebound, assist, score. Is that something that you learned as a kid? Was it in high school? Where did that skill get instilled inside you?
Well, I learned a lot from my dad at a young age. He coached me from, 1 month old until I was about 14. And even when he stopped, coaching me specifically where I was on his teams and he was my coach, he helped along the way, every step along the way. But at a very young age, he taught me some fundamental skills that he learned from Frank Laettner, who coached for the Utah Jazz, and he also coached at Niagara University. And my dad was lucky enough to go to maybe 2 or 3 of his camps in the summertime. And he learned a lot, that old school, well, now it's considered old school, fundamentally sound things. But this was in the late 70s and early 80s where he was coaching me, and he taught me all that good stuff. All play off 2 feet, catch the ball and face, and don't dribble right away, and always be ready to pass, look to pass, stuff like that.
Awesome. In regards to this as well, how was your high school career? We all know that you're famous for, your shot, of course, but did you have any of those quote unquote shots when you were in high school? Did you guys win some state championships? Tell us a little bit about that.
I did have a buzzer beater in high school. It was my college year. It was my senior year, and we were down in Florida, in Boca Raton, Florida. I don't exactly remember the name of maybe the Beach Ball Classic or something. So we drove down from Buffalo to Florida, Boca Raton, and it was my senior year, and my 2 best buddies in the world, Jake and Kev, are on the team, and we're playing in the tournament, and one of the games comes down to it's tied or we're down 1, and we had a videographer. Okay, his name was Barry. And he was the one that taped the games. So there's 3 seconds left. We run a nice out of bounds play underneath out of bounds, our own hoop, with 3 seconds left. And I get the ball and I throw up a bank shot, and it goes in, and we're all going crazy celebrating. It's a buzzer beater. We win the game. Well, Barry got so excited that as I went to shoot, he jumped up and hit the camera. So you can't even really see it. The camera kind of moves off frame, maybe 10 degrees, and you can't see the whole play. So it was so funny, and it's something I'll never forget. And the videographer got so excited that he bumped the camera, and you can't even really see the play. So I did hit one buzzer beater at least in high school. And my high school career was awesome. I was lucky enough to play with some really fundamentally sound guards, the Turgalski brothers. They were coached by their father, who was a very good coach. And I was lucky enough to play with them, and they loved to pass the ball. And all I had to learn to do was to play like a big man, which was, in high school, I was 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", those 4 years. So I just had to learn to play like a big man, which was around the bucket, near the bucket, being big, being tall, being long, catch the ball, lay it in, catch it and dunk it. Don't dribble too much. Give it to the guards, let them handle the ball. And we had a lot of fun in high school and a lot of success. I did win 2 state championships my first 2 freshman, sophomore year, because those brothers were on the team, and they were a big part of why we were successful.
Man, that's a really cool story. I think we all really appreciate that. And we're also going to ask you for the video. I'm sure a bunch of comments are going to come through that we need to see that tape.
It's out there somewhere. I've seen it. My high school coach, as a present a few years ago, he gave me all my high school games on one VHS. So this was probably 10, 15 years ago when VHS was still around.
For sure.
And he gave me that highlight reel, and on that reel was that thing where the videographer screwed up. So it's somewhere. It's out in the ethos somewhere.
I'm sure we got some detectives looking for it already, so we'll probably find it and be able to tag you in it as well. That's really, really awesome, Christian. So on the same lines of this, when you graduated out of high school at Nichols, were you planning on going to Duke all along, or did you have interest in other schools, or kind of talk about that process?
Well, I had three main schools that I was thinking about. Those three were the only official visits I took. So that was Virginia, Carolina, and Duke. So all three ACC schools. I just love the ACC. I thought it was by far the best basketball in the country. You got to remember 82, 83, 84, right when I'm, 14, 15, 16 years old. Excuse me. It was the Ralph Sampson era at Virginia. So like UVA was always on the TV, especially in March Madness and tournaments. And I was watching Ralph Sampson in the ACC and Michael Jordan and James Worthy and all these other really good players. And then maybe a year or two after that, it was the Big East with Patrick Ewing and his run at Georgetown. So I just thought the ACC was more my type of basketball. I thought it was a good fit in terms of my skills and my game and stuff like that. And I really liked Duke because Coach K let his big men play inside and out. And I was starting to develop some outside skills and shooting, outside shooting skills and a little more ball handling. So I thought I could do that in the ACC. So those were the only three schools I visited, and Carolina was really close. But a lot of players, Vince Carter, Grant Hill, if they didn't go to Duke or Carolina, they would have went to the other schools. So
Yep.
And they're just two great basketball programs. And when I told my mother that I'm going to Duke, she cried over the phone because
Man,
she didn't know anything about basketball really, but she loved Dean Smith. Dean Smith was really good at connecting with the parents and letting the parents, assuring the parents that he's gonna help us through the process and everything will be okay. So she loved Dean, but I went to Duke and it was a great fit.
very cool. Awesome, man. You mentioned Coach K, and we all know Coach K was kind of coming up during this time, making a name for himself. Did he come up and visit you? Did he have any effect on your decision at all when you met him? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, he was at a lot of my games in the summertime, like my junior, senior year at that 5-star camp we already talked about. And then, he came up, when you're on one of the All-American teams, they're all going to visit you. So Bobby Knight came to my high school, which was awesome. Roy Williams, Coach K, Terry Holland, all those guys. And my high school gym was abuzz when Dean Smith and Coach K were there. They were there on different nights, but it was crazy.
That's awesome. I can only imagine how cool that was. That's really cool. So again, you said that maybe you were mentioning going to UNC. We all know, Duke and UNC, the bad blood rivalry. But in terms of your personal greatest rivalry, was there a team that you wanted to beat more than any other? Was UNC always the team that you guys hated and wanted to demolish, or was there another team that in particular stood out to you that you really wanted to stick it to them?
Well, of course, UNC, there's just some type of vitriol that gets put on the game, even if it's not really between the players, and the players kind of know each other, even if it's not between the players, it's like such a created thing by the media and the fans and everyone else that like you got to buy into it. And then all of a sudden you're just like enemies with them, especially once the ball tips, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep. 100%.
Just so crazy where those guys and you see them in the summertime and you might play in the summertime against them or with them once or twice. But then when the real games come and all the hype and you turn into sworn enemies, and there's just a different level of intensity. And though every Carolina game that I ever played, I think I played maybe 11 times against Carolina, was just vicious and as high intensity as like all the tournament games and
Yep.
maybe even more. Just crazy, but a lot of fun. You had to be able to fight and play and keep playing and not get knocked back and knocked down and turned off and disappointed because they're gonna come and they're gonna try to really give it to you, and
Yep.
and it makes it a lot of fun, and it makes it high stakes, and it's a great time, and it's fun to be in that situation.
Last question before we head off to our little break real quick, but it's on that same subject. I want to hit this point. So UNC, obviously, biggest rival. Was there a particular player that you always wanted to do your best against, kind of show your highest level to, or maybe just you guys were rivals and I don't think they had Instagram back then, but wherever social media might have lied back then, were you guys kind of beefing in the newspaper, or was there anybody that you in particular when you played them you really wanted to stick it to that person in particular?
No, not really. Not on North Carolina's team or really any team. It's just against all of them, against the whole team, because they were all coming for you, and especially their guy like 6'5" and up, because they're all coming. And I remember my senior year, the announcers would say Carolina's got three 7-footers on the bench, and they're all willing to use their fouls against Laettner. So they're going to be bumping and battling. So it's just not one person. It's like the whole group of bigs, or everyone except the guards, the forwards and the guards. But it didn't matter who it was. I remember, maybe for the first 2 or 3 years when King Rice was at Carolina, he was their point guard. But, man, he was aggressive out there, and he was awesome. Now, King Rice, he's from New York, and we have like the Olympics for the state of New York. They were called the Empire State Games, and King was on the Binghamton team, I think, or whatever that was called, Central, and I was on the Western team, and we would play against each other, and he was a dominant, incredible basketball player in high school, and he was also an incredible football player in high school, a 6'1" point guard that's built like a running back. So
yeah.
So King Rice was always fun to play against, and but you never had it against one guy. It was against all of them, the whole team, including Dean Smith. Because
Yep.
the coaches have a little. The coaches know everyone on both teams, because if they don't go to Duke, they go to Carolina, or they don't go to Carolina, they go to Duke.
Yep. Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, hey, guys, again, we're very excited to have Christian in here. We got a lot more questions to ask him. We're going to have a little bit of a 5-minute break right now, give Christian a chance to get some water, take a little bit of a breather, and also give you guys some time as well to type in your questions. I can see a bunch in here.
And to get the commentator on there, right, Arthur?
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. We're going to get Austin on here as well.
Do I have to press stop my video button or anything?
You should be able to click the button at the bottom left corner. And then same thing, I'm going to do it just like yourself as well. So we can all take a little bit of a breather. We'll get Austin on here as well. And we'll all kind of regroup here in the next 5 minutes or so. Sounds good, everybody?
I don't see any button. I'll just let it keep running.
Cool.
Okay.
I think it'll be okay.
5 minutes.
All right. We'll be back here in a minute, guys. Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. You guys still all here? Yep. All right. So, Austin, go ahead and I think we got your mic figured out. Will you go ahead and just try to say something real quick?
Yep. Can you guys hear me now?
Perfect. Great to have you on here, man.
Awesome. Super excited. I'm not sure if the computer was as nervous as I was earlier or what kind of happened there, but
it's all good. Christian, are you online yet? Are you back yet? Or if not, we can wait a few more minutes. Christian, you back online with us?
I am.
Perfect. All right, Austin, if you're still good to go, the floor is yours, and let's continue this great conversation.
Yeah, no, super excited to be here. Sorry about that earlier, Christian. I'm not sure what really happened, but glad to be here with you. Glad to be getting this opportunity to talk with you, interview you. So super excited there.
No problem, Austin. Usually it's the old guy that has those technical issues.
I know. I said it must have been the computer was as nervous as I was earlier. I'm not sure, but
All right, well, I'm ready. Let's go.
sounds good. We'll keep it kind of in the Duke stuff. Looking at Duke this year, they look exactly how we usually expect Duke to be. Obviously, there's been some injuries and stuff, but between Cooper Flagg and the rest of the team, they've looked phenomenal. John Shire seems to have them playing exactly how we would expect them to be playing. Would you say, is John Shire, was he like the greatest pick that we could have had for Coach K replacement? Or, kind of what are you thinking of what he's done so far and how he's doing this year?
He's doing great so far. I'm very, very impressed. It's not an easy thing he's doing. You got to be coaching in every aspect the right way, and it looks like he's doing it, and it's great to see. He's a friend of mine, and I hope he does it for 20 or 30 years or however long he wishes to coach. But they're doing great. They've been doing great since he took over the job, and I like the fact that they're talking about defense a lot. They're trying to be really, really, really good on defense. So that's important, and that's why they can even win without Cooper out there, because they're so good on the defensive end. They got some guards who really, really get after it on the perimeter, and then they have really good rim protectors. So they're doing great. I hope they keep it up.
Yeah, have you had the chance to kind of speak with the team, the players, give them any advice this year at all?
No, I don't speak to the guys. I don't say anything. Maybe Coach K had me in once 10 or 15 years ago, but it was just to be there and to watch practice. But no, I don't say anything to them. That's why they got Shire and all their good assistant coaches, and they got enough people in their ear, and all they know is that I'm pulling for them, and I want them to do well and have success all the time. And if they do what the coaches say and if they buy in, they'll have success.
Yeah. Was it a tough decision for you to stay for all 4 years instead of, leaving early for the draft at all?
No, it wasn't hard. At the end of my junior year, I heard, in the top 15 picks, my junior year, I think that's what they were saying or something like that. So that felt great, but still there was no consideration on my part. I knew I wanted to stay all 4 years. I wanted to play for Coach K for another year. I wanted to have another chance to go to the Final Four and maybe win another national championship and repeat and back-to-back and all that stuff. It would have been really hard for anyone at that point to leave. So I wasn't thinking about it at all. We were trying to we were in the process of trying to build, a dynasty there. And it was going on right then, right when I was there. So no, it would have taken a lot, or I would have been stupid to leave. So I did it. So I didn't. And I had a really fun senior year.
Yeah, and like you said, it certainly paid off. You guys ended up winning 2 national titles. You're in the championship game, all 4 years. And then on top of that, you won almost every major award out there. And then you were even responsible for a couple of buzzer beaters. Obviously, the one against Kentucky is a little bit more memorable than most. Can you kind of tell us what was going through your head during that timeout and then once you got onto the floor?
Well, the first thing is, dang, I can't believe we're in this situation. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. That's all I kept saying to myself in my head as we're walking over to the bench for the timeout after Sean Woods hit that crazy straight-on bank shot from like 12 feet over 2 highly contested hands, which were mine. And man, just so disappointed for a split second. But then the next second you're saying, okay, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose. So we walk over and get in the huddle with Coach K, and the first thing he says, in a very in a manner that just makes him a very, very good coach. We're going to win. We're going to win. And I mean, we all know at that moment, you know that, man, there's a good chance we're not going to win. But just to have him say that and for him to let us know that, hey, it's okay. People make shots. You can't always stop them, dead in their tracks or where they don't even score. And it's all right. When he said, we're going to win, it's kind of like saying, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We still got a chance. So that was a really good move on his part. And it's something you never forget. And it's been spoken about, till the birds come home. I mean, it's just crazy. Everyone should know that story. And then he drew up a good play. And after he drew up the play, he did another good step, a good motivating thing, a good psychological trick, which was he said that he asked Grant, can you make the pass? And Grant said yes. So that's kind of giving Grant some ownership of it. Like, yeah, I can do that. I can make a pass. So it gets him thinking in a positive light. Then he turned to me in the huddle and said, Christian, can you make the catch? Can you catch it? Yeah, coach, I'll catch it. If Grant throws a good pass, I'll catch it.
That's awesome. I mean,
just another brilliant psychological trick on his part to where he gets both of us or all of us in the huddle thinking in a positive light. And I guess it didn't work that great because over the years, I've heard Bobby and Grant tell stories where they say and they admit that they thought the season was over. Well, whatever. So coach pulls that little psychological moves on us and gets us to think, yeah, positively we can do it. And then we just got to go out there and run the play. And we ran the play maybe 2 weeks earlier in Wake Forest, and we lost that game because Grant's final pass kind of took me out of bounds. And the play was called home run. So we just practiced the home run play for 2 weeks in practice. We knew we would need it again. And lo and behold, there we are 2 weeks later, needing it against Kentucky, down one with, 2.1 seconds left.
That is awesome. I mean, speaking of Coach K too, I think personally he's probably top two, probably not two, greatest coaches of all time in college basketball. Was he kind of the deciding factor that pulled you in on Duke? Just kind of seeing, I guess at that point, I'm not exactly sure how many years he'd been there at that point, but
yeah, at the last, the last thought before you make a decision is yes, yeah, Coach K's there too, and Coach K is really good, and I also like the fact that they had not gotten to the promised land yet. Before I signed out of high school, they still hadn't won a championship. They had gotten close. They had gotten to the Final Four in 85, 86 with the Johnny Dawkins team. So they hadn't gotten to the promised land yet. And Carolina had already won a championship or two or three at that point. So I liked that Coach K was there, and he was so young, and he was so good, and he was so up and coming. And then I also liked that they hadn't been to the promised land yet, and maybe I can change that a little bit.
Oh, 1 second. Lost my sound here.
I hear you now, Austin. Okay, Chef, you got to pick it up, I guess.
Hey, I'll come in any second now. If he's having technical difficulties again, I got no problem with that. I'll give him
can you guys still hear me?
2 more seconds here. We can hear you now. You there, Austin?
He's going in and out.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and just continue it, Christian. No worries there. If he hops back in, we'll pick him back up. So we've been talking a lot about just Duke and everything else. Let's get to some NBA questions anyway. So if you're okay moving on to there. So graduated from Duke, played with the Dream Team, then it was time for the NBA draft. Was there a team that you really hoping to be drafted more than another? Did you want to go to Minnesota? What was the process like for you kind of leading up to the draft with different teams?
it didn't matter to me. It would just be awesome and an honor to be drafted by any NBA team. So it did not matter to me, but we kind of knew Shaq was going 1 and Alonzo was going 2. And then after that, everyone wasn't sure. But so we knew Shaq was going to Orlando, Alonzo to Charlotte, and it was a great feeling to be drafted 3rd. And as soon as I was a Timberwolf, that's what I wanted to be, and that's the team I wanted to play on. And I went there, and I loved it, and I loved 3.5 seasons, and I wish I never got traded. And it stinks that I got traded, but getting traded happens in the NBA. But I still think if you're a special player, the team won't trade you.
Yep.
So I think it's one of the biggest honors in the NBA to play on one team for like 10 years or your whole career or 15 years, because it just means that you're so important. They'll do whatever they can to hang on to you.
Yep. And a bunch of questions just came through on that same topic. Was there any part of you, is the big question right now, that you thought you would go number 1? Do you think that you were deserving of number 1 at the time? We'll kind of talk about that a little bit.
No, not at all. Everyone, including myself, knew the potential that Shaq had, and no, I knew I was number 3.
Okay.
Three and beyond. 3, 4, 5. Everyone in the world knew Shaq and Alonzo were going 1 and 2.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Christian, was there a city that you did play in? I guess you mentioned that Minnesota was one of your favorite places to play. Was there ever a city that you played in that you kind of wish you would have played in more often, or like a team that you wish you would have had the chance to play for at all?
No, because it's a little out of your control. You have a little bit of control because you get to choose and sign where you want to go after your rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
But still, no. And any place that I went would be fine. I wasn't looking at it as like a nice place to live, or like, is there surfing close by or snowboarding? It was just go wherever and play basketball. I kind of wish I could have played for Phil Jackson a little bit. I think I would have liked to try that. I really liked playing for Pat Riley my last year, my 13th year, because he ran a tight ship. And I really like basketball when there's rules and strict, hard-nosed coaching, and the coach kind of yells at us and he holds us accountable. And I like organization and structure, and you have to be coached really hard, really well to develop all those types of things. So a simple way to put that is I liked hard-nosed coaches, and that's why I love Coach K so much. The coach has to be demanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I played for 13 different coaches in the NBA, and some of them weren't as demanding as the others. And as a player, you should want your coach to hold everyone accountable, to be very, very demanding of everyone, to make them play the right way. So it didn't matter where I went. I loved every place I played. I loved every second of my 13 years in the NBA, and I didn't want to quit after 13 years, and I could have played for another 3 or 4 years, I think. But you have to be willing to say no. So at 55, you can stand up straight, and you can still play a little basketball, and you can go snowboarding once in a while if you want, and you can still have an active life, because I'm 55 and I can do all those things. I'm not so broken down. Now it's getting there. My hips and knees and ankles are bad. But if you played 3 or 4 more years, then your hips are just going to go out earlier and your knees are going to go out earlier. So I stopped. So when I was 55, I'd be able to do all those things I like to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of bouncing off of that with the coaches that you played for, were there, I mean, you played with a ton of, really great NBA players, was there any that were kind of the top of your list, some of your favorite ones to play with?
Well, I played with Kevin Garnett for like 3.5 months, and we all just knew that he was going to be a huge factor pretty soon and for a long time. So seeing Kevin Garnett, like his first 3 months in the NBA was incredible. Even though he's one of the reasons I got traded, because he was just so good. He had to get on the court and play, and then he went on to be a Hall of Fame player. So that was a lot of fun. Man, I played with Dikembe Mutombo, which allowed me to play the 4-man, the power forward, which is more suited for my game in the NBA. I played a lot of center in the NBA, but I preferred to have one guy that was bigger than me out there, so I could play the power forward. And so it was really fun playing with Dikembe, rest his soul. It was fun playing with Mookie Blaylock and everyone on the Wizards, and I was around Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash for a few months on the Mavericks one year, and that was very interesting and a lot of fun because they were just kind of coming up too and making a name for themselves. So like I already said, every moment, every second, everything about the NBA was just the greatest.
That's awesome. We also got some questions in here about some of the dream team, which kind of leads in perfectly after talking about, all those legends that you did get to play with. I guess just kind of sum up that experience. What was it like? How did you find out that you were getting to play on the dream team, especially being, still in college and playing with looking back now, some of the greatest players to ever play in the NBA?
Excuse me. Well, actually, I was in Myrtle Beach when I found out that I got selected because when Duke finishes up their classes and your final exams in April, probably like April 10th or something like that, when school's over, all the students go down to Myrtle Beach for like the weekend to celebrate. So I'm down at Myrtle Beach. My senior year just ended. I just got done doing final exams. And the whole, half of the school's down there, and I get a call on my cell phone, and we had the Motorola's back then, and they said call Coach K in the office. So I got on a payphone and called Coach K, and I think he's the one that told me. I called Coach K, and he said, "You've been selected for the dream team." So that was a great feeling, and it's just crazy that I was in Myrtle Beach when that happened. And then being on the team was the greatest thing for me, the most fun, because nothing depended on me. Like, I didn't need to score any points for us to win the game. I was the 12th man on the team. I was the least important person on the team. I just came from 2 to 4 years at Duke where we're getting lots of media attention, and how well you play in the game, determines whether you win the game or not. And coming from that type of situation, pressure all the time and expectations, and then to be on the dream team where there was no expectations of me, I loved every second of it. And I kind of got a break because not a break from basketball, because you're practicing with those guys. They're the best players in the world, and that's great. That's fun. But I got a break from like the media coming around or the media attention. We just won our second championship, so there was a lot of media attention like in early April. And then a few months later, I'm on the dream team, and after practice, when the media walks in, no one walks over to me. They're all going to Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and all those guys, and none of the media was coming to me. So that was great. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, you kind of get to sit back and just see it from a different perspective, learn a little bit from that. So I'm sure that was really cool experience. So I do have to ask, I personally, born and raised in Wisconsin, did a lot of fishing. I've heard that you're a big muskie fisherman. Kind of what got you into being, having the love to fish and specifically fishing muskie, and kind of just, what's the biggest muskie you've ever caught?
So what city or town, Austin?
So I was born and raised in a little town named Beaver Dam, just north of Madison.
Well, I've done a camp at Beaver Dam.
Have you?
And I've done about 30 to 40 camps in Wisconsin over the last 10 years. And I've done one in Beaver Dam, and I've done plenty in Shawano and
Oh, yeah.
Denmark and Winter and Mosinee and so many others. I can't even, Pillager and Brainerd, and that's Minnesota, but so many in Wisconsin, it's incredible. And I've done one in Beaver Dam, and I've been coaching since 2010, and I love every second of it. Mainly kids from like 10 to 18, and I get to blow the whistle real hard and yell at them, don't dribble so much, and catch and face, and let's play 5-on-5 where you're not allowed to dribble. So you have to learn how to move and pass and cut and advance the ball up the court without relying on the dribble so much.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
what
awesome.
Was your question? What was
Sorry.
Your question?
I just kind of wanted to ask you about muskie fishing, how you kind of came to love muskie fishing,
Well,
how
could I forget about that, Austin?
Well,
how that started was my strength coach for the Timberwolves. His name is Saul Brandis.
Okay.
We were very tight and close for the 3.5 years I was on the Timberwolves because I had to lift hard. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was the strength coach of the Timberwolves, and I had to be dedicated to him because I had to get stronger and I had to put on weight and put on mass. So I was lifting with that guy all year long, all summer long. And for the first 3 years, sometimes after we were done lifting, we would go play golf. And then finally in 1996, he says, I think you would like this fishing that I do up north. And this is, we're living in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, I love fishing. Let's go. So that was the first time, probably in August of 96, where he took me up to the Lake of the Woods and showed me muskie fishing up there. And then I went again in early June, where you can also do the smallmouth bite and the walleye bite, where they're up shallow on the rocks and stuff like that. So, and it's not just muskie fishing. It's kind of like the Lake of the Woods and those types of lakes up in Canada. I just love that type of fishing up there. I love standing up and casting all day long for fish up on the rocks. And that season where you can catch the smallmouth and the walleye, that only lasts for a month. So the rest of the year they go in deep water, and I don't like jigging as much. So then we got to move to muskie fishing, where you're standing up casting all day long for a really big fish, which is fun to catch, and I just love it.
That's awesome. I'm actually going to turn it over here to Chef. I know he's got a couple things. Christian, I do want to thank you, though. It was awesome having you. Awesome getting the chance to talk with you a little bit. And yeah, I'll hand it off to Chef here for a second.
Okay, Austin. Thanks a lot.
Austin, I appreciate you, man. That was awesome, and really enjoyed all those questions. I know everybody else did as well. I just want to make sure, Christian, for a good lead-in for you as well, if you could have some camps coming up, you want to talk about those real quick, or just anything personal you got going on right now?
Well, I got one camp this winter in Buffalo, New York, at my high school, the Nichols School, and doing that again probably for like the 8th or 10th year in a row, and I love doing it, and I get to go up and hang out in Buffalo and Angola, where I grew up, for a week straight, and teach kids basketball, kids from the Buffalo area. A lot of Nichols students and basketball players come to the camp, so that's great. And I get to see my old high school and some of my old teachers and eat all the food that I love up there, like the pizza and the wings, the famous Buffalo wings and tacos and peanut donuts, and I gain 10 pounds every week that I'm there because I'm eating all the good food, but I'm seeing my dad and my relatives and my best friends, and I just love every second of it. So I've been doing that camp every year for the last few years. I was able to take my son up there, so he got to see like where I grew up a lot for like 4 or 5 years straight. And then I might do another camp in Wisconsin. I did a camp in Denmark, Wisconsin last year, and I got some options this year. I just got to get on the phone and talk to the coaches and make it happen.
Very cool. Well, for everybody who's listening, I'll go ahead and say, as someone who's been a part of some of these camps before in my past, They're an awesome time, and not only that, but just the amount of knowledge that you learn from Christian. It's no comparison. He really is the goat of the game. So just again, as somebody who's been a part of these for my childhood, if you haven't signed up for a camp or you'd like to learn some skills like that, definitely check it out for and Christian, if you want to send me over a link or something like that, I'd be happy to post it as well and just help you out.
It's Laettnercamps.com.
Awesome. LaettnerCamps.com. I'll go ahead and tweet that out as well, just for everybody. And then again, just before we wrap it up here, I know you got to get going pretty soon, Christian, but are you able to maybe take 5 minutes for some questions? I know there's a few people in the chat right now who'd love to talk with you.
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and just, if you have a question, there should be an invite to speak button. And I'm going to go ahead and just invite a couple of people who I'd love to hear from as well. So, Jared, if you're listening right now, I'm inviting you to speak. If you'd like to go ahead and hop on there if you have a question. Purdy, same thing. I'll invite you to speak. And again, no pressure, guys, but again, only once in a lifetime opportunity to get to talk with the GOAT. So if you have a question, get it in now.
Did you say you don't want me to tell who I got winning it, or I can't? So I won't disclose who I chose. Okay. Well, I can't give you that advice either, but I've seen Florida play a few times. There's been times when Auburn has looked by far like the best team this year, and then there's been times where Florida looks like they're by far the best team, and Florida's got some big people, and that's a different maker. In the NBA, you can get by with maybe just one big because everyone's so good at the 3-point line now that they rely on that a lot, and they use it more. They use it more, and they rightly should, because they're better shooters than college players. So the college teams that have two big guys or 2 or 3 big guys that they can cycle in there, look at Creighton. They've had that one big guy for a long time, and it seems like they go deep every year in the tournament because of that one big force, that 7-2 guy. That 7-2 guy. And Connecticut had like 7-footers, last year, and 2 or 3 years last. And then Florida's got some bigs. So there's been times when Florida looks great this year, and then Duke's doing good too. And Duke's got bigs also. They got the one big that's been playing good all year, and then they got another kid that's coming in and starting to spell him and do pretty good.
All right. Well, Christian, we just want to thank you again for taking your time to be in here with us tonight. And it really does mean the world to all of us. I know I enjoyed it more than anything. And I know from the comments I'm seeing already that everybody else did as well. So we appreciate you being in here with us. And we're very excited to play against you as well. So we hope that you come out prepared with those picks, because we got some very educated sports bettors inside here. So we're all excited to see how we can do competing against the GOAT.
Okay, Chef. Thanks a lot. You guys have a good night.
You as well, man. Thank you again.